Hey guys, it's Tom Cheswick and it's time for another exciting episode, and today we're doing snow scenes using ON1 Photo Raw 2018, and this is the image we're going to create. I want to thank two photographers that shared some background images that we're going to use. The first one is Savannah Marie Photography, and she let us use this bench. And then also for the Santa hat, that came from Rebecca Lange. So thank you both. And of course, this is Tom Cheswick of My Retoucher. I'm a professional photographer and digital artist. And on Facebook, you can find me on My Retoucher. For those interested in workshops, you can come to cheswickphoto.com, click on the workshops button, and I have outdoor lighting and also green screen extractions. So two fun programs. They're hands-on workshops, so you come there and you're taking images and you're working on them on the computer, and it's a whole lot of fun. So be sure to check those out. Let's hop into ON1 Photo Raw 2018. Here was a photo shoot we did with Skittles the Macaw. And here's the image that I liked the best. So I created a folder called Composites, and in this folder we're bringing in all the elements that we want to use. So we have our background image. We have, of course, Skittles. We have the Santa hat. And we have a Christmas tree. So once we have everything together, we're going to go right on, click onto our main background image, and go to Layers. There's our base scene, and we're going to go back to Browse, and we'll get our subject. Now I did already cut out Skittles. I have tutorials about extractions, so if you need help with that, go into subscribe on YouTube, and you can look at the videos that I have for ON1 and extractions like that. We're going to bring Skittles into, and we're going to add as a layer. So there's our floating bird. Next thing we're going to do is use the Move tool, and made my first noob mistake. We're going to cancel out of that. Make sure you highlight the actual layer that you want to move. And now I can position her wherever I want. I could bring her there. For this one, I'm going to bring her right about there. Click her on. So I could scale her, but for me, this is the right size. And that looks just how she was sitting on her perch before, so I'm going to hit apply. Okay, we go back into Browse, and we're going to hit OK. Next, we want our Christmas tree. So I'm going to select that. There's two of them because I want to show you something in Photoshop that I like how it works compared to ON1. I don't normally say bad things about ON1, but in this case, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, so highlight that. We're going to bring it into Layers, add as a layer, and we have our Christmas tree. Let's move that, and I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm going to click on the right layer, click on Move, and basically put the tree somewhere where I like it. Okay. And we'll hit apply. Okay. So now when doing composites, things that are sharp are usually your focal point. You have some foreground, and to make things look like a background, the easiest technique is to make them blurry. And this is the part I wanted to show you, because when we take this image into effects and we try to add a blur filter, or even lens blur is my favorite, Okay. So something like that looks nice. When we're done and go back into layers, we get this hard edge going across. Okay. And it just doesn't look right. So we're going to back out of that and have our sharp image. And I want to show you the difference with Photoshop. If I take this image and go into, say, filters, blur, and lens blur, and I add a fair amount of blur and hit OK, I don't get that same hard edge that we did with ON1 Photo. So that's the only downside that I have right now with ON1. I'm going to close out of here and close the program. We don't need to save anything. The only difference that it makes is we're going to have to do masking 2 times on this. So we're going to have to do it once in layers to place it where we want. We're then going to have to make a stamped layer of all the elements here, go into effects, use a lens blur, and then I'm going to have to mask again to get it exactly how I want it. So a little extra work, but it still is doable. Okay, so I want to make sure I am on the right layer. I'm going to my mask tool, which is B for brush. I want to paint out, and I'm just going to quickly come along down here. Okay, so roughly the Christmas tree is good there, except it's covering the bench, and if we want it in the background, we need to uncover the bench. So this is going to be a kind of a hit and miss. We'll start removing what we know to be the bench. And then we can come back and fine tune that selection. So I'm overcutting out the Christmas tree, and now I'm going to go back into paint in mode by hitting my X button. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer. Okay, now that we're zoomed in, we're just going to come over, use the navigator to move to the area that we want. And we're going to increase our feather, still staying at 100%. We're going to paint in the Christmas tree. Okay, and I'm going to just hit the X key to paint out here. So it's a kind of going back and forth between paint out to find out where that real edge is and paint in. Okay, so always just go a little bit further than need to, switch X and go back to where you want. Softer edges on the back works fine, but we'll want sharper edges on the foreground. Okay. Okay, and so you don't have to watch every stroke. I'm going to pause for just a moment, clean up a little bit more. Okay, guys, that's looking pretty good. So, next step, what we're going to do is to make a stamped layer of our elements. We have everything in place. What we don't have is the tree blurred. But again, we can't do it like we could in Photoshop. We have to do it in Effects on a flattened layer. So, make sure you're on the top layer, go up to Layer, and New Stamped Layer. Next, we're going to go into Effects. And this is where the fun begins. So let's start with my favorite one here, Lens Blur. Love how this one looks. And right off the bat, it's looking pretty good. You could just kind of fine tune the sliders, find the setting that you like best. I'm going to do it right about here. And it's applying it to the whole image at this point. So we want to click on the mask icon here and hit invert. Now everything's sharp. All we need to do is to use our brush, paint in and paint out mode. And we're in paint out. We want to paint in. And again, we don't have to be too accurate here. Okay, just quickly getting all that. We can hit the box right here and see our mask icon. Go a little quicker, make sure we didn't miss anything there. Okay, come on back. Now we'll spend a little bit more time right around the edges here. So we're going to zoom in a little closer, come to this section here, and we'll overdo it. Holding down the space bar to be able to move quickly. Okay, so that's looking really nice. And now we're going to hit the X button to paint out. We'll use a smaller brush. So I'm using the bracket keys to quickly reduce the size. And I want to make sure we're not softening the bench. Okay, again, doing this quickly so you don't have to sit around and watch every little step. But basically, kind of go over that edge of the bench again. There's one below it too. Okay. Great. Okay, so there is a little part where a little bit of the tree got in. That shouldn't have been there. So we're just going to kind of get that out using the retouch brush. Okay, so our lens blur looks good. Let's look at the overall setting. Nice, everything about that I like so far. Close up lens blur. Let's add, um, let's see, some sharpness to Skittles. How about some dynamic contrast? Okay, so settings right out there look pretty good. We don't want sharpness on everything. So we're going into our mask, we're going to invert, and we need to paint in instead of paint out. Okay, so let's see before and after. Just a little sharpness to Skittles the Macaw. That looks nice. Next, we'll add the snow. So there was snow in the background image, right? But we have a parrot and we have a Christmas tree with no snow. So let's come into textures. And I love these weather presets. So if we go down to weather, there is rain and snow and heavy snow. We're just going to go with snow light. Okay, so that looks great just like that, except this kind of makes it a nighttime feel to it, and that's pretty cool too. But I wanted just kind of the nice bright snowy weather, so I'm going to switch the mode to lighter. And the last thing we're going to do is sometimes you'll have either people or in this case pets where the snow is, you want it on them, but you don't necessarily need it on their face. So we're going to do paint out mode again with our brush. So I just hit the X and just come in, take it a little off the beak and the head. I like the other ones. And just like that. Perfect. So what do we want to do next? Let's add probably a vignette. So there's a couple ways we could do this. We could do a vignette just like this, a nice big softy. And if we do this, we can pinpoint where the center part of our image is. So that's going to kind of give a nice big area here. If we go down to the feather, we'll see where it is. And in this case, we have a horizontal vignette, and that could be nice. Let's kind of adjust this a little bit, bring it down right about there. Perfect. And let's feather it out again. So that's looking really nice like that. Only thing is, I'm not crazy about vignettes on snow. So the easiest way to fix that is come up to the gear icon, and we can protect our highlights. So this way the snow's not getting darker at all throughout the image. So that is it. We are done. We hit done here. And we'll go back into layers. And we have our finished image. So be sure to hit like and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you want more videos about ON1 Photo Raw 2018. Have a great day.